Time for us to configure a little something that we'd love to configure with any network service, and that is we're going to bring in some redundancy. We're going to bring in router 3 at 10.1.1.33. I already have the address on there of tested connectivity with router 2 and all is well. But I have not put any NTP configuration on router 3 yet. So that gives us a chance to look at iOS help, check out the options. I don't think any of the options are going to surprise you at this point in your studies, but I want you to see them one more time anyway. And this also gives us a real world chance to see what's going to happen when one client is synced up to multiple NTP servers. We're going to have a little discussion about that, and we're going to see it live too. So, because of course with NTP, like with anything else, you don't want just one server if you can help it. If you can have a router that has 2 or 3 or 4 NTP servers, that's great. But we need to see how it's going to choose or which one it's going to choose to get its time from. But we want it to sync to both of them. So first things first, we got to head up to router 3. We'll slide it on over. And we'll put our 3 magic commands on here. We're going to start with master. And that, of course, is our stratum number 1 through 15 because you can't make stratum 0, a Cisco router, a stratum 0 device. And now we're going to configure the authentication key. And there are your options. Don't get cute with the key number. 1, and you see the many options that we have here. So we will go with MD5. And then finally, we're going to set the key itself to CCNA. What else we got to do? We got to trust the key. You got to make the key. You got to trust the key. And your key number is going to go right there. And then that's it. So that's all there is to it. That's all we need on router 3. It's serving as our NTP server. We need the master command, the trusted key command, and the authentication key, MAT, if you want to remember it that way. Master, authentication key, and trusted key, MAT. So let's go ahead and head over to 2 and run show NTP status. And well, we like what we see here, but we don't see anything about syncing up with router 3 yet. And we like what we see here as far as the synchronization to router 1. It's still present, and we can run our new friend association detail and see what's going on there. And we like what we see there, seen and valid. And what's going on here? Why aren't I seeing anything from router 3? Because I have it configured router 3 as a server for router 2. All I did was set up NTP on router 3. Now on router 2, I got to add another command. I got to do the NTP server command at 10.1.1.33, and that's the only option there. Excuse me, it's not the IP address of the peer host name or address. So we're going to go with the IP address. And we do have a prefer option. Prefer this peer when possible. That's an interesting way of putting it, isn't it? When possible. Because with everything else, when we've tried, like go back to your NA studies, your early NA studies, when you learned about a root switch, and you learned a couple different ways to manipulate the root switch election or the root bridge election. And the thing was, when you changed the results of that election, when you got it to go the way you wanted it to go, there was no maybe. There was no when possible. It just happened. That's the way it goes for 99.9% of things on Cisco routers and switches. So I find it a little interesting that it says prefer this peer when possible. More on that later. That's what we call a teaser. Now let's go. NTP server 10.1.1.33. What do we need here? We need key, and we're going to put 1. And we are probably going to get a lot of information from these debugs. So feel free to turn your head if you want. Yeah, here it comes. Going to be a lot of it. Da-da-da. Lot of NTP packets going back and forth at the very beginning of a new relationship and a new authentication. So once this finishes up, I see some authentication key 1, but of course it's going so fast it's hard to make. Need to make sure it's coming from the right place. So let's go to a UAll here. And this looks pretty good. So right here at the very bottom, we've got transmit packet to 10.1.1.33. And there's authentication key 1, so that's a good sign. And here's receiving packet from 10.1.1.33 to 10.1.1.2. Authentication key 1, that's a good sign. And let's go ahead and run show NTP status. And we see something about 1 clock, and that's the one we've been synced to. And, Some interesting things going on here. So when you see local, you've got a situation like this where we know that we set the clock, or I set the clock off camera, that is, on the routers 1 and 3, so they're getting the time from themselves. That's why it says local here for reference clock when it's talking about .1 and .33. Thing is, we have an extra character in here now. Now we still have the asterisk and the squiggle or squiggly next to 10.1.1.1, but we also have something next to 10.1.1.33. We have the configured, the squiggle, but now we have a plus sign, and the plus is selected. So which one of these clocks are we actually getting our time from? Selected as what? That's a little odd because it says right here, show NTP status, and the reference is 10.1.1.1, so that makes us think we're still getting the time from the same device we were before. But if that's true, why is it that next to the new address we have selected? Selected as what? What can answer this question for us? How can we definitively know where we're getting the time from and the authentication? And you already know the answer to that question. It's show NTP association detail. Isn't that a great command? Usually the detail commands have so much stuff, and they tend not to be totally helpful, really. Sometimes they just give you too much information, but here they're giving us just the right amount, especially in the first couple of lines, because we have 10.1.1, it's been locally configured, it's authenticated, and this is our master, and it is sane and valid, and it's a stratum 1. Here's 10.1.1.33 configured, authenticated, selected, not listed as our master, sane, valid, stratum 1. Here's the deal with selected. What that means is that this router has been selected as one that could serve as the main time source. It's not, but it could be. So if router 1 went away, if 10.1.1.1 went away, then the device at 10.1.1.33 could take over. So don't let selected fool you. It doesn't mean it's been selected as the main time source. It means that it has been selected as a potential time source. So that's where that extra information came from. So just want to look over this one more time. And here with show NTP status, and I'll run that again here actually. Run show NTP status. Here you're only going to get the information about the device that you're actually getting your time from. So your clock is synchronized. The local stratum is 2 because the stratum of the actual time server, router 1, is a stratum 1. There's your reference, there's your time, etc. And now let me run show NTP associate, and that's the one you got to watch out for. Watch out for that selected. Now you know exactly what that means, but you also know that the device with the asterisk next to it is the master device to which we are synced. And then finally, if we put a little detail after that one, you will get the information in the first 2 lines that you really need about configured, authenticated, and our master is what you're looking for when you're trying to determine exactly which device you're getting your time from. Now, did you see anything here really in any of this detail? And I'll bring it up for both. I know it's very detailed. Okay, I get that you are looking at a screen full of information right now, but have we seen anything that really tipped us off as to why 10.1.1.1 is still the time server and 10.1.1.33 is not? I really don't think we did, because the stratums are equal. That's at 1 and 1 right here. And, even these delay numbers and polling numbers, are identical. This offset difference looks pretty big. You may not even know what an NTP offset is when you're looking at that. It's like, So the thing is, we don't have anything here that's yelling at us as to why 10.1.1.1 is still the time source. It might be that offset, it might not be. And we are going to talk about that, and also I'm going to show you how to set the clock on a Cisco router. As I mentioned earlier, I did it off camera, but I want to show you the command. And we're going to do a little more NTP troubleshooting, and that's coming up in the next video. See you there.